Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Mike Johnson coming up here in a moment. Leafs coming off a win last night. Patrik Laine returning to the Habs lineup tonight. And by around this time tomorrow, we'll find out who made all four teams for the Four Nations face-off. By tomorrow afternoon, we'll know Finland and Sweden. And Canada and the U.S. will be later in the afternoon tomorrow. But
still way too early, man.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Like, it's tomorrow. There's nothing we can do about it. I agree with you, but there's no turning back on it. It's going to be announced tomorrow, and I expect a couple of surprises, but nothing crazy. Like, they're all good players. Canada's loaded with good players, and I'm looking forward to seeing who they end up picking and where they take this team.
The snubs is going to be the big shows like ours and everywhere else. You go right to it first. I think it's the first thing you discuss, not who's on it, who got snubbed. It's just 100%. What we do.
Did you see the list of the World Juniors? Like there
was like 4 or 5. Steo said today there was like 4 or 5 picks in the top 10 that weren't invited.
They're bent out of shape and all of them, man, and they should be.
That Jakubchuk, he's a good player, and so's like Tisha Ginla didn't get invited
in Ottawa. Like I get Hockey Canada can't. It's not a house league
dude,
game.
First of all, you're not going to take a guy, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, if this kid's playing unreal, and he's unreal, he looked unreal with the Ottawa Senators. What the hell's going on where he wasn't selected? That's the only thing I would want to know.
That. Like, he didn't even get an invite to the camp. Like, you cut him, that's one thing. And I get it. It's a testament to how deep Canada is. And I saw Craig say this earlier in the week. Craig Button said he thinks we're on the verge of, like, another era where we could run off, like, a lot of gold medals here. Canada's loaded with talent.
Yeah, and it'll be a veteran team, so some of those guys who were just drafted will probably make next year's team.
Okay, well, what it makes me do is when I'm doing the games and there's right-handed defensemen and they can't get it out of their end or whatever, I'll be like, sure, it would be nice to have that guy there. Sens, first-round pick. Where the hell's he?
Well,
I hate that.
Thing. The Sens, I think, also wouldn't be so bent out of shape if they were second in the Atlantic right now. It's not good with what's going on with the Sens. You were on the trip in California, Noodles. They went 1-1-1. That Ullmark stole them that game in San Jose. He was unbelievable. They had 11 shots. Celebrini's really good, and we can get to that.
Yeah.
But I think a part of it is also, like, can you throw us a bone here, please? Hockey Canada, we're hosting. Can you get our first-round pick, please, playing for the country?
Well, the kid's supposed to be a special player, and I just, like, sometimes this is the arrogance of Hockey Canada. They think they're smarter than everybody, and let's see if they
win, they win, though.
Right.
That'll be the response.
But, dude, you just said it, Hayes. Like, what the hell's wrong with inviting? Like, you're telling me he wasn't good enough to even get a sniff at camp? Like, something's up there, man. Yeah. Something's up there.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like Craig talked about, is if they got a deep team, and it sounds like they do, these kids will play next year. Jakubchuk might not, because he's 19. He'll play pro next year. He's that good of a player.
Yeah. He broke camp with them this year.
And you look at it, too. He might have something that they already have. If he's an offensive defenseman and then there's somebody there already, they might not. They might go, we got 2 of these guys. We're going to choose one, and we're going to go with more of somebody different. I ain't buying that one either, Jamie. I understand it. I'm just, again, I'm trying to look at the other side and go, well, there's got to be a reason. As much as, there are smart people working there, and they know what they're doing. They've won medals for years. So it's just more about, sometimes don't overthink it. The best players in front of you, they got a lot of them. So they have to make some tough choices.
Multiple guys drafted in the top 10, not even invited to the camp. Like Ginla, Jakubchuk, that's pretty significant, man. Those are really good players who are not. This isn't 17-year-old kids.
No.
You're asking to come. Like these kids are almost ready for prime time in the NHL, and they're not even on the radar because they did not even get invited to the camp. Here's a guy that'll be in Ottawa calling the games. Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's happening, Johnny?
What's going on, boys? It's amazing. I spent yesterday sort of early digging into the roster based on the invites to the selection camp, and the story's always about some guys that are not invited and why, and what does that mean for the team and the style they play. I guess we'll have to see what they look like when it's finally said and done. And it's almost as if, if you win, and Canada has had a great track record of winning, then clearly you're vindicated in whatever decisions you make. That doesn't make even if you win, doesn't acknowledge that every decision was right. You still maybe should have made other decisions. Maybe you would have won in a different way. But you see some of those big names, some of those top 10 picks, especially the offensive defensemen. Like last year was a tough year for Canada. Did not go well for them. And they were missing a little dynamicism on their team, especially in the back end, right? Like the fact that they have some high-end offensive defensemen, Yakemchuk, Parekh, who are not invited to even the camp, like to even have a chance to make it, I guess tells you a lot about the guys they did invite, how good they are, and how good they should fit in, but also maybe about the style. I don't know. I mean, you play in this tournament, you know better than anyone. Building the best team versus building the best team from the best players, those are two sort of different things.
I get it, Johnny.
Those motivations is tricky.
I get it, but we were just discussing the kid from Ottawa, like to not even get to the camp. Like, imagine I'm pretty sure there was a good chance this kid got to camp and impressed, and somebody was like, "Man, this guy's got to be." But not even to go to the camp, we all found weird.
Well, I do too. I sorry to interrupt. I think it's weird just on the fact that if they're that deep on defense, especially on the right side, then I could understand if they've got 2 or 3 of those guys. I don't know if they do. That's more of a question for when you guys get there and you start to see it. You know what? We might be talking at Christmas, and both of you guys who've been at the tournament go, "Hey, you know what? They were right because this guy's running the power play, not Yakemchuk." So, I mean, in the end, they made the decisions, and we're talking more about the people who didn't make it as opposed to, hey, they've got a really potential strong team here.
Well, I look at it this way, and Steve Staios makes a good point. Now, all GMs are very biased to their players in this tournament, but he said, and Yakemchuk was going to start the year in the NHL, and he accurately said, if he had been in the NHL, Hockey Canada probably would have been begging for him to come. Right? Like, that's the nature of, based on where you're playing. Even if he wasn't playing great in the NHL, they'd say, like, please come back, please join the team, and he's not going there. But, I mean, as I was putting the thing together, they got a kid playing on this team, or I guess trying out for this team, Sam Dickinson, who was 11th to San Jose. This kid is 3rd in the OHL in scoring, not defenseman scoring. Scoring. He got 45 points in 24 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be the guy. He's a neighborhood kid from where I grew up. My kids went to the same high school as him, so I know his family since he's been 5. But
so he's rich.
They have.
Yeah, he's wealthy area.
Dad's a member where I happen to play. He's a good guy. Good player.
You guys are the worst.
The kid's loaded. There's no question about that.
Johnny, we got you, man. We got you. Private schools and private ice. We got you. All right, Johnny, let's get to the brass tacks here. Where do you stand on sunglasses after the game being worn by Anthony Stolarz after he was named the first star last night?
Okay, this is a nuanced take for you, Hayes.
Okay.
If the glasses are worn in fun and a good spirit and a little bit of a sarcastic manner, awesome. If you're wearing them because you think you're cool, get out of here with that nonsense. So if you are laughing at yourself, and I think Stolarz did after the game, said there were a camera in them, they said put them on, said what the hell, why not, to see what the footage looks like. Yeah, that's kind of fun. And it's good to have personality, and it's okay to enjoy yourself. If you go out there thinking you're the cool guy at the club with glasses on, then you're getting laughed out of the league. So I think he did it in the right way, so I'm okay with it. He didn't think he was the coolest guy in the building because of it.
Okay.
That's what me and Noodles tried to portray.
You can't be cool. You can't look at you guys. The kid line: Busher, Jackson.
I know
Charlie
what it is,
dude. When have you ever seen a guy wear sunglasses? The only time I've ever seen a guy wear sunglasses is we had a massive win in Arizona one night, and we had a big night afterwards, and I think we were going golfing after practice, and Gary Roberts, of all people, wore sunglasses but when practice started. He was wheeling around the ice with sunglasses on.
I love it, man.
And we were all dying of laughter. And it was one of those light moments you could enjoy after some success, but it wasn't at a game.
Okay. All right. Well, what about this tandem being the best tandem in the NHL? Hard-hitting questions here, but Craig believes it. Craig said it on with Jay last night. I agree with it to this date. It doesn't mean it's not subject to change. I mean, it can get there as the season goes on, but on December 4th, Where do you stand on Stolarz and Wall?
Who would be better? It's almost easier to just go down the road. Like, who would be better? Would it be Minnesota?
That's where I went.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're better. I think that team plays better defense. And those are two different things. Would it be Winnipeg? Well, that's really the strength of Hellebuck, and that's it. Could it be Anaheim? Sleeper pick. So Sal, awesome. John Gibson has been very, very good. They might be in consideration. I don't know. The Devils with Markstrom and Allen. The answer, I guess, by process of elimination, about guys who play basically sort of some sort of 50-50, 60-40 split, that up to this point in the NHL season, and I don't know how long it's been since we've said this about the Toronto Maple Leafs, that they have the best goalie duo in the league. I'm trying to rack my brain. I played with Cujo. He was one of the best goalies for sure. Back up with Glenn Healy. I don't know if it was a duo thing. Ed Belfour, not necessarily a duo thing. Felix, I don't know when the last time the duo was this strong. So, yeah, I guess you could say if it's not the Wild, then it's the Leafs, that they have the best duo so far this year. I could go with that.
Johnny, we talked to our great friend Jonas Siegel yesterday, and we said, what if one of the goalies this week played all 3 games? And he adamantly said, you're asking for trouble by doing that because that's too much for any goalie for the Leafs to play. He literally said, you're asking for trouble. I think we were talking about Joseph Wall. So if Joseph Wall, this is getting to my question, if Joseph Wall can't play 3 games in 1 week, and maybe Stolarz can't either, and that's why they're a tandem, who the hell's going to play in the playoffs? And I know this is just total Toronto media looking that far ahead, but I often wonder. It's every other night. One guy's got to play.
Yeah, I mean, like Jonas, what kind of trouble are you getting into? What, do you think his leg's going to fall off? So he's going to be fine. The trouble I think you could get into would be one of the 2 guys feeling slighted because they both have played well enough to earn the net. I get that. Noodles could speak to that. Like, when you play well enough, and you get your partnership or you're a backup, but if you're playing that well, as they both are, you want to get in there, and you've earned your way in there. That would be the trouble I could see. I don't think physically would be an issue. Stolarz already ran off a whole bunch of games in a row this year before, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. And the other part about being in the playoffs, you don't travel. Like, I get you got to play every other day, but there's no travel involved. You're sitting there in the same city well in advance. You prepare normally, and then you go and you play, and you have a full day off to do whatever you want, and full game day, and you don't travel. And I think we will see down the stretch, if they're both healthy, and if they're both playing well, and you hope both things are happening, how they try to set up whoever they perceive to be their one guy. Because even as a duo like this, like Boston, who was the ultimate duo, like 2 years ago when they were so good, each guy played 41 games. Like exactly 50-50. Last year, same thing. They didn't rotate in the playoffs. And I wonder if Toronto would ever get to the point where they kind of just share the net in the playoffs. If it's that even, don't think they will, but I guess it's a possibility.
Yeah, that would be bold, man. That would
dangerous.
be. I don't see it happening.
Against the grain.
Against the grain. Against the grain.
Montgomery tried it at the starting of the playoffs last year, right? Didn't he go?
They committed to it.
He committed to it, and then he went to Swayman.
Yeah,
right?
And he went away from it.
He went away from it, and they squeaked it out in the end. But it was like, hey, we're going to go back and forth. We're going to remember, wasn't it like we were debating? Again, they can't go to Allmark.
Because he wouldn't announce who was going to start. He said they had a plan that they had set in motion the week before, and they were committed to it.
Jimmy had a big trick up his sleeve.
Yeah, and they went back and forth the first 4 games. All right, Ryan, I want to play this Reaves audio, okay? Reaves is back speaking with the media today. He's now served his 5-game suspension, obviously on the hit on Darnell Nurse, and Nurse didn't like it. Nurse naturally didn't like it, nor should he like it. And he came out and he called him out and said that Reaves is a guy going out there looking to inflict pain on people, and he didn't like the hit. And here's what Reaves had to say, speaking with the media for the first time in response to the hit, the suspension, and what Darnell Nurse had to say.
When you get caught by somebody, I think you're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. But I think my 900 games and however many thousands of hits I have, speaks for itself. I play physical every game, and I've been doing it for 15 years, and I've only had a couple suspensions. The only truth that he spoke was, I go out there to inflict pain. That's a fact, and that's not going to stop. But I'm going to continue to do it legally. yeah, I'm gonna keep playing hard, if not harder now, and I'm gonna keep burying guys.
Okay, there you go. I inflict pain, and I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to do it even more so now if I can. What do you make of that comment?
So, coming from a guy in me who did not inflict a lot of pain when I played, I have this conversation with people all the time. Well, he hit him to try to hurt him. I'm like, yeah. No, obviously. What do you think I'm trying to do? When I got Jeff O'Neill lined up, I want to hurt Jeff. I don't want to injure him for weeks, but I want him to feel it. I want him, if I can hit Jeff O'Neill in the first shift of the playoff series and separate his shoulder on a legal hit, that's a dream come true. I've done what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not a mean player. I wasn't wired that way, but I don't think that as being an inflammatory comment. He goes out there to hit and hurt people, not injure them long term and concuss them, but to hurt them, to make them feel a bit of pain. That is so normal. It's a barbaric nature of all pro sports. You don't think football players are trying to hurt each other, right? Like rugby players are trying to hurt each other. In contact sports, this is what happens. It would be strange if any player went out there and said, "No, I'm never really trying to inflict any pain. I just want to get the puck back." That's not really how anybody is wired at this level in this physicality of a sport. So I got no problem with that. That sort of makes sense, and I would expect Darnell Nurse, if he's talking about the way he hits, to say the same thing. I don't think that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
Johnny, if there was no contracts and guys weren't kind of owed positions, what would you do with the rosters with some certain players coming back from injuries, also some young guys coming up and playing well? How would you handle the roster up front, more importantly?
Yeah. I think obviously the guys coming back will go back into the lineup. I don't think anyone...
I get that, but if you had a choice where there wasn't owed spots or you're going to just get your spot back, where would you do things?
Is Pacioretty an owed spot, though?
No, I think Pacioretty's good enough that he should play ahead of Pontus Holmberg. And Alex Steeves, there are guys on that team that are playing right now that Pacioretty would play ahead of to me. So I guess I would, if I'm going down the list, I would look at Grebenkin, Steeves, probably Holmberg. I'd have to think about Dewar. I have to think about Robertson. I guess I'm getting progressively further in the lineup when Camp and Domi and Pacioretty and maybe someday Yarnthrope get back. Their third line, McMahon comes back. Okay, he goes with Tavares and Marner. The first line stays the same. Nyes, Matthew, Nylander. Okay, there's two. The third line, I would give Minton, Domi, Pacioretty a run. I want to see what that line could look like playing with better players. And the fourth line will be David Camp, Steve Lorentz, and somebody else. And Ryan Reaves may be on the, occasionally in games, occasionally not. That's probably how I set it up, though. And it's tricky. You want to lose Nick Robertson on waivers. I think you definitely would. So what are you going to do there? Those are some decisions, but that's how I would set it up if I was not concerned whatsoever about rosters and waivers and everything else.
Yeah. Listen, I think, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Minton, waivers, and all that kind of stuff. This Grebenkin kid he's starting to build a reputation in this town. He's
a hot mess out there. He's hilarious.
He's hitting guys late. His comments after the game are wild. Apparently
walks. He's got that grin.
He's got the grin. He walks right outside of Gate 5, which is right on Bremner there. This guy walks half an hour after the game, he's walking through the crowd, and just talking to people and doing stop and chats, and people have their phones out. This guy's doing, forecheck, back check, paycheck quotes. We have which one is this, JP? Him on the street or him post game? Okay, this is an example of this. This is Grebenkin on the street right outside of the rink after the game last night. Okay.
Go, Reaves, go, yeah. There's our boy! I can't believe it! Hey, check today. We love Hayes. Speak away.
Guys he's walking home. I don't know who those guys are. They're doing a podcast right outside of the ring.
I'm telling you, fan base, I don't know what it is. I know they love rough, tumble tough hockey, they love that. Like, they love a guy like that. Like that guy would be selling jerseys. Like his jerseys would be selling. Grebenkin jerseys.
They will start to move, man, like heavyweight if this guy stays up and plays long enough and keeps doing that. But this is where you talk about the machine Noodles, the Toronto machine. I hope it doesn't grab him and pull him in and say, put your suit on, you got to drive in. Go underneath the ground. Don't walk and talk to fans. I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, this guy's Toronto's Hawk Tua right now, though. That's what it is. Like she's
built an empire. Don't talk down to her, man. She's richer than all 5 of us combined.
I'm just saying, not Johnny, but
maybe
the 4 of us. My point being,
or Dickinson.
But my thing is like, I think that's just what you see is what you get with him. Like, I don't think that's an act. I think he's just a really gregarious guy. Like he doesn't know the language great, so he's just enjoying it. Like, I don't think it's a guy that, like, there's a difference between like me talking about the machine and that's just his personality. I think that's just him.
Then don't take it away from him, though.
I don't want to, but my point being is that.
But you guys will, though. He will say something you won't like in the next 2 weeks. I guarantee it. He will say something, and the 2 of you will say, I wouldn't like that in my day. Gary Roberts would pull me aside.
So let me just backtrack here. We talked about this team coming into this season. What was the biggest change of this team coming in the offseason? Just the
Craig
one single. Exactly. What do you think that guy thinks? Because I'll tell you right now, everybody, like, if Sheldon, it was fine, hey, everyone's like, oh, country club. He's not running a country club. That's my point. So I'm going to go back to, like, if Brad Treliving wanted to change some of the things, if he's not changing some of the roster up front, he wanted to change an attitude. Do you think the guy behind the bench cares about sunglasses and cares about stopping to do podcasts on the street? He cares about those guys playing well.
Sure.
That's what I'm talking about. That's my point through all of this.
Everything is like everything within reason, I think.
Exactly.
Please stop referring to us as the 2 guys from the Muppets, for Christ's sakes. If he wants to have a quote here and there, that's great. But if you're going to go nuts with it and you're everywhere, that's where it just gets a little bit much.
It just, like, you know what? My point with the sunglasses was, like, I just thought, I want Stolarz to just do his job, and he's doing an amazing job. Like, I'm so happy for him. Like, I love the guy, and I don't want to see him get ahead of himself and it gets swallowed up.
I hear you.
That's my biggest thing.
I understand
the other kid that we're talking about,
Grebenkin's
he might be with the
living his
Marlies
life.
in a couple weeks, and it'll be just a great story, and that's it.
I don't know, man. I like this kid. I don't know.
Okay,
I think he could be a player for them. I don't know if he's not going to be a rock star for one, but you talk about the guy behind the bench. You don't think he loves how aggressive this kid is, how physical he is? He pisses off every team he plays. I think that's an important ingredient. I think Craig Berube would appreciate that.
One of the ways that the Leafs wanted to change, yes, the personality, but I think also, like, this kind of stuff, like a bit of personality, not in an undeserved way, but a different sort of feeling team to play against, to operate against. But I can't say now. I'll give you this: he may say something that you may not love, but he's got the ultimate out, and that his language barrier is pretty strong. Like, he doesn't speak English that well, so I love that he's out there doing it. But if he says something wrong, he's just like, I didn't mean it that way. And I think he'd probably be honest. Like,
yes.
He doesn't speak that much. You're not going to get on him. But I do get the sense it is a reality for Toronto, for Montreal, for the big markets. When you do anything sort of interesting or well, and the fan base gravitates towards that, whether it's Stolarz playing great, or it's Grebenkin playing with energy and an infectious personality. The markets are so big when they latch onto it, it can inflate your sense of importance. And that's what the guys are talking about, where you got to make sure, like, you stay true to who you are. That's why Noodles would be concerned about Stolarz. Like, you're doing so amazing. Please don't let the fact that you're doing so great in this market change how you prepare and how you view yourself and how you grind and how you work. Because we've seen it happen with other players in markets like Toronto. If you're Grebenkin and you don't be a flash in the pan, read your own headlines, think you don't have to work and bring it every day because guys want to stop and talk to you on the street. That's not the reality of your life on the ice. That would be the concern. But beyond that, I mean, I don't think Greg Berube or the Leafs machine PR will dumb him down or quiet him, muzzle him.
I'm not convinced of that. I mean, listen, I think everything you said there is 100% reasonable and accurate, and I think it's important to get that messaging across. What I'm saying is it can swing the complete opposite way to, wow, it was a good lesson tonight. Wow, we're pucks in deep, and you're like, guys, why can't you just relax a little bit? And for years, we've been covering this team forever. And it's always felt incredibly corporate. Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think the Leafs as an organization are terrified of, misinterpretations, of bad press, of saying the wrong thing. How is the media going to react? What's the fan base going to do? What are they going to say? I do think there's an element of that, and I do think some of the best players just don't have a personality that they want to portray publicly. Privately, I'm sure they're very different. Publicly, Austin and John and Willie, they're just they're going to give you kind of a cliche, say what they're going to say, and move on.
This kid doesn't know any better. He's having the time of his life, and he's letting it fly.
And it's awesome. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to kill it.
I'll give you an example, and it's not in this market. Arbor Jack guy. Like that
Perfect
guy.
Example.
Perfect example. Come into the league, worked at Costco, great story. All of a sudden, like, the product's not matching the way that he acts. The hype. And that's what concern. Like, I'm not talking about Stolarz. You need both. That's what I'm saying. And I just want.
But right now they have both.
Fine line.
Is what I'm saying. Like, so why put one before the other in terms of the concern? Like, I don't know. Well, and obviously if they're going to have off nights or run into a bad stretch of games, then sure, people are going to jump on them. But guess what? That was going to happen anyway. Yeah. With or without a street interview. If Grebenkin throws a pizza up the middle and they lose and he's awful tomorrow, no one's going to say, let it go because he did a street interview. People are going to call him out for it. That's the nature of the beast.
As long as they don't say he threw a pizza up because he did a street interview. Right? Like, that's the connection you don't want them to make, Hayes.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it's good or bad, it's not because he has a personality or because he's having fun walking home from the game or whatever it is.
Right.
And I get that. Respectfully to Grebenkin, I don't think it's going to matter one way or the other. You know what I mean? Whatever he does. Like,
probably not going to stick around.
It's going to make enough waves long enough to get the attention of whoever might be around Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they like this. I think they like, some part of them likes the idea. Like, Brad Treliving is a different general manager than Lou Lamoriello, than Kyle Dubas.
Exactly.
Right.
And, he might not be the corporate, the corporate machine is still there, but the idea that he wants some personality, some jam, some juice, I think he likes all that. Like, I don't think he minds this as much as maybe the previous regime would. And so, good on the kid. Like, honestly, I don't think he's on the team in 10 days. Exactly. Not through any fault of his own. He's shown himself well.
Probably.
But, he can have a good time. And as O said, it's time of his life. Like, it's great to see someone reacting to good moments in the NHL the same way that many fans think that they would react if they were able to have that same moment. That's why he's relatable. Because the fans are like, that's how I'd be.
Yep.
Life's the best. Look what I'm doing. And he's kind of showing that, especially with the way he plays and then sort of the broken English fun that he's having communicating in it, which I totally respect in doing in a not ideal, comfortable way.
Well, that's another element. He could easily say, not talking, guys. I'm not comfortable.
No English.
Like, he is very happy to do it. And, and speaking of Treliving and his approach, one of the first things he did was sign Ryan Reaves because he thought they needed more personality, more life, more of a sense of humor, more whatever. And I embrace it because it's a long season. We can't sit here every day and say, wake me up in April. Give me something new through the course of the season. Right. And that's what you're getting. You're getting a little bit of a different personality, a different vibe.
I think, too, though, Johnny, you laid it out. Like, I don't want to change Grebenkin. Like, I think that's just what you see is what you get, and I think that's cool. The sunglasses thing is a separate argument. We're marrying the two. I'm not. I'm looking at personality as opposed to one isolated incident where, Johnny, you laid out where don't get ahead of yourself, just play well. That's kind of, so that's, I don't want to marry the two. Grebenkin, I think, is a big personality and he's loving it. And there's nothing wrong with that. The other thing was, I think it was just a one-off and move on with it.
It'd be something if he comes bombing out.
I think it would be.
The next
honestly,
time he's a star.
Good on him because I'm so happy for Stolarz.
He's been a great story, and I understand where you're coming from. You're protective of the guy because of his history and how well he's played, and they need him, and he's been really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, quickly, Johnny, before we let you go, Patrik Laine returning.
Yeah.
How would you describe your expectations?
Tepid.
Yeah.
it's been out for a long time. He's coming off a tough year. He's playing for not a great team. He's playing with two players who have struggled mightily in Doc and Slafkovsky. I'm excited for him personally. I want him to get back, having fun, playing the game well. But I think it's going to take a minute or two, and he's sort of well ahead of schedule as well. So just physically, it might take him a minute or two or a week or two. But hopefully, when he gets playing, in Montreal, the way that fan base sort of responded to him before the year, he'll feel the juice that he used to have when he played Winnipeg in early days in Columbus, when he was one of the most exciting young players in the league. But I'm not expecting greatness tonight because he's just coming back and because the team he plays for is, they're mediocre.
They're not a good play. Well, that's, I think, being kind.
I'm being very kind when I say that.
Very, very kind. Yeah, considering where things are going in Montreal right now.
They're the worst team in the league right now, aren't they?
I mean, based on points, them and Chicago. Yeah. Chicago is technically worse.
I went to the game last night, Hayes. We didn't talk about it at all. The game wasn't a great game. Toronto didn't play well. My takeaway from the game, Toronto was a good, sort of polished, mature team, and Chicago's none of those things. Chicago's just not good. They try hard. They're just not very good.
Well, what about the Rangers, Johnny? Are they just not good, or are they just a mess?
The Rangers, I won't get into it too much, but their defensive numbers, expected goals against, 28th. High danger chance against, 30th. They have a top 8 shooting percentage, or save percentage, top 10 shooting percentage. This is not luck. It's not bad luck. They're not good. They've played awful. They give up more chances per minute than the Penguins. The Penguins.
Oh.
So they're not good. It's not a one-off.
At the Pens.
Shrapnel.
Okay. Pens taking a shot.
I think the Pens show enough of themselves. They know.
Yeah, that's probably valid. All right, Johnny. We'll leave it there. We'll do it again later in the week.
All right, fellas. Talk to you.
There he is. Mike Johnson joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. I mean, his assessment of the Blackhawks is true, and we're an hour and a half in. We haven't mentioned the name Connor Bedard. It was like a tumbleweed. He just rolled through town and left. And he had a Sam Mitchell night last night. 0-0-0. Like, he had nothing going on.
Yeah, he did one shot in the second period, and it wasn't a laser beam. It kind of whiffed on it and left pad save.
He's in a funk, man. He's he's not exempt from it. He's got to snap himself out of it. I don't know if he needs a jolt from the coach or what he needs. I don't know. He just wasn't Connor Bedard. I've seen that guy obviously at a different level. That wasn't the game that he plays. So he's got to figure it out, man. No,
he'll get there. It's just they're not in a good place, man. They're not in a good place. All right, confirm or deny coming up. Jake Delhomme. Don't call me plumber. Jake Delhomme coming up in an hour.
Wow.
On Jameis Winston. What a roller. This guy.
Dude, he's a lunatic, man. I'm sorry.
Some of the comments and the stuff before the game.
Dude, I want to go to break. Before we get to confirm or deny, I want to hear the one where he prays to God about pick sixes.
Okay,
that is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
All right, so we got Jameis. We'll get into that. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, so we all know the term backdoor cover. That was a front door cover last night where the Broncos had no right to cover that game. No right to even win the game, really. But Jameis Winston had the best, worst game I've ever seen in my life, where he threw for over 400 yards. The 4 touchdowns he threw were really, really nice balls, like really nice throws, really nice reads. He was on time. Yeah. Incredible. Him and Jerry Jeudy were like Montana and Rice last night. And the picks he threw were horrendous. I mean, to throw 2 pick sixes in the same game, and then the one on the goal line at the end of the game, which would have covered the number easily, is just astonishing, man. I saw an incredible tweet. Someone tweeted this out. Trevor Knapp, I think, from Covers. He posted a picture of that Harvey Two-Face from the Batman movies.
Yeah.
From The Dark Knight, and it said Jameis Winston every time he drops back to pass, and it's the 2 different faces with the coin in the air, because you have no idea what you're going to get. It's either an unbelievable throw or it's a pick six, and it is terrifying to watch, yet it's a fun roller coaster. There he is. There's Winston in the pocket all night last night. What do you want?
This guy's been I think he had to get glasses in Tampa Bay because people were like, can you see properly?
He got LASIK eye surgery, and he came in to camp and said, I can finally see. The guy threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
Dude, we had Mark
season.
Schlereth on from the NFL, and he said he was throwing picks into the other team's video room. That's how bad it was at one point.
Well, so I saw this stat last night. The Stats tweeted out that Jameis Winston threw for 497 yards last night. The Broncos also had 171 yards in interception returns against him. That 668 combined passing yards plus interception returns is the most of any quarterback in NFL history. And my guess would be it's not even close. I would guess he broke that record by 150 yards last night because it was so extreme. And he's got a pick-6 issue, and he addressed it after the game, and he's asking for help. And this is how he'd like to get help. This is what he said post-game.
In times like this, it's an opportunity to continue to glorify the Lord even through the toughest circumstances. I know I'm better than this. I know I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes. That's not me.
So praying to deliver him from pick sixes.
Dude, I'm sorry.
Wacko.
People believe in God. There's, go ahead, be whatever religion you want. But if I was a coach or GM, I'd say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Play better and cut the crap.
Yeah, listen, he's putting on somewhat of an act in terms of
it's a joke. It's been a joke for a month.
After the game. Yeah. It doesn't seem genuine. That's what I would take from that if I was on his team, if I was a fan, if I was, religious or what have you. I'd be like, I don't think this guy's being sincere with this stuff. Like, it just feels...
everything is so cut and dry in pro sports. Like, you can't go up to your coach, and this is just from my personal experience, and say, you know what, I got to ask the Lord to deliver me from giving the puck away at my own. No, the coach will say, if you want to put your gear on again, then don't do it. Stop with this other crap. Like, it's cut and dry.
Yeah. That was wild last night, man. And credit to Denver. They won the game. I think they're likely going to the playoffs. I think you're going to see 3 teams out of the AFC West. The Chiefs are going clearly. And I think the Chargers are going to go. And I think the Broncos are going to go. And you talk Coach of the Year, I think Sean Payton's a guy that's got to be in the conversation. Like, this team, when he took over the Broncos last year, they were a mess. And last year wasn't great. They won 8 games. This year, remember last year they lost like 73-10 or whatever in Miami. Remember how bad that game was early in the season?
It was a gong show.
They have completely turned things around, and Bo Nix looks good. And full credit, man. Full credit to the Broncos.
Tell you what, that kid can sling it. That 3rd and 11 where he just blew it down the field, like that guy can sling it.
Yep. He looks like a quarterback too, doesn't he? He's got that vibe. His name's Bo Nix. Like, his whole vibe screams. He's from the same town in Alabama as Jameis.
Right. Yeah, it's just he's sick looking.
Yeah, he's a good player, man. He looks good. And that was an impressive win. And now we turn the page and we got Packers-Lions on Thursday night. Packers-Lions on Thursday night. And as of now on FanDuel, I believe the line is still Lions -3.5. Pretty sure they're still favored. I would expect them to be favored, but I think that line's going to come down. I think money's going to come in on Green Bay, and we'll see, the injury reports on the Lions. And it's not a short week for either team because they both played on Thanksgiving last Thursday. So it's a complete 7-day week. No one's at an advantage or a disadvantage here. Big game on Thursday night. All right, Jake Delhomme will join us into the next hour. Confirm or deny coming up. We'll continue to touch on what happened last night with the Leaf game, what's going on with the Rangers, what can we expect out of Patrik Laine and his return, and Tiger Woods speaking today. Tiger walking around and speaking today.
I'm over it, man.
Yeah.
OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, confirm or deny coming up. Jake Delhomme coming up. Forward to catching up with Jake Delhomme, man.
We don't acknowledge it anymore, do we, with him?
I don't think he would even remember.
Yeah.
I think he'd remember that, man.
No, he would. Dude, he does a zillion phoners. You think if we said, hey, man, 5 years ago, we called you Jake Plummer, and you said, no, it's Delhomme?
It's Delhomme.
You think we could play it for him?
No way.
I don't know if we want to. That's a dangerous game because then he may think, are you setting me up again? Is Jake Plummer
punking
coming
me?
on?
This isn't a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Yeah,
but I'll bet you he remembers, man. Those are moments in time that I don't think you forget. It's
Delhomme, not Plummer.
It was so awkward. But he's such a good guy. He's going to be a great interview too, right? On what we saw to those two quarterbacks last night. They hit on Trevor Lawrence over the weekend as well, because there's a real conversation in football right now about quarterbacks and giving themselves up and how you protect them, but also don't take advantage.
GM coming out against the suspension of his players, saying the media factored in on it. It's like, you're high, dude.
I mean, Houston's all bent out of shape because he got suspended for 3 games, and the aftermath of it is so difficult to watch. Like he just destroys him, and his arm's up, and he's out. You can tell Lawrence is out.
Awful, yeah.
It's a horrible hit, and he follows through, buries him, and then never tries to get out of the way. So I think that hit in and of itself was worthy of him being ejected, worthy of a suspension. But I do think there's a conversation to be had about quarterbacks taking advantage of the sideline, taking advantage of giving themselves up on a slide and faking it and trying to pick up an extra few yards. And I think defensive players have had enough, and they feel like they're being taken advantage of, because if they follow through on a hit when they're not supposed to, they're going to be penalized. And the quarterbacks, I think, are trying to dance around the rules a little bit and allow the rules to benefit them, which is not a surprise at all. So Jake Delhomme on that and more coming up in about 50 minutes. We've sent Al's brother out somewhere in the city with a pair of Leaf tickets, and you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. Yesterday's clue effectively gave us nothing. I don't think anyone has a clue where Al's brother is right now. But by Tuesday into Wednesday, usually it starts to become more and more clear. You guys ready for the second clue of the week?
Go for it.
Hey, OD fans, it's Tuesday. Are you ready for your new clue to find out where is Al's brother? I should mention that right now I'm currently taking a stroll down a Toronto alleyway.
I think I might know where he is. If he's downtown, I think I know where he is. Tune in tomorrow for another clue. The first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs take on the Sabres on December 15th. Find Al's brother, brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora, our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca. So Leafs Nashville tomorrow, then Washington on Friday and Pittsburgh on Saturday. We'll see what happens with the goaltenders, but it sounds like Domi's getting closer. He's not going to play tomorrow night.
Pacioretty too. Right?
Pacioretty getting a little bit closer. So guys are going to return to the lineup, and I'm curious to see what Berube ends up doing, and even where Brad Treliving's head is at. We've been talking with the Rangers today. Pittsburgh's been making moves and trying to make them. We had Barry Trotz on last hour. I think Barry would be open to a trade or two if he felt like something was going to kind of spark his team and it made sense. The Leafs are in a position of leverage here because they're winning and they've racked up points and they have 2 goalies they can trust, and their defense.
Wouldn't that spook you a little bit to say, I don't want to add something right now because we're cooking right now?
If it's available,
Jimmy Rutherford was legendary for doing that, making the trade 5 months ahead of the trade deadline.
That's what I'm wondering.
I'm fine with it if you make your team better. What you're trying to do is make your team better, and if you believe that somebody's available right now that might not have been available a month ago because of the way things have gone. If Barry Trotz goes, hey, I'm looking to move somebody that you thought wasn't available, you got to look at it. If you're Brad Treliving, you're always looking to get better. Every team, because there's 8 to 10 teams that believe that they can go deep into the playoffs, and they will be early shopping right now, even if they're rolling or not rolling. You're looking for the big picture, and I don't know where they are as far as cap room and all of that. I think they've been accumulating a little bit, but with these injuries, I don't know the gymnastics they've had to do. But if there's a player that's available, and you were maybe looking at him and targeting him for February, March, and he's available now,
go get him. He's available now, because if you don't get him, somebody else will.
Exactly.
Look at the David Jiricek trade, which I don't think the Leafs were in on that. But Minnesota's hottest team in the league.
Yeah.
They didn't think twice about it. Like, there's a guy that can help us now and help us in the future. We're in. What do you got to do? There wasn't a concern about ruffling feathers and why would you mess with a good thing. Right. They saw a player that was available and they went and got him. And I think Treliving would do the same thing. I think he should. Because it feels like, I don't know if all hell's going to break loose before the Christmas freeze, But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers did something soon, and it feels like the Rangers are desperate.
Dude, it seems like they have to do something.
They need to
and
shake
when you
that
get a
team
team
up.
that has to do something, that is desperate. Hayes.
Desperate times, man. I don't know if they'd be looking to make a deal with the Leafs because the Leafs are, a position where the Leafs want to win, Rangers want to win. I'm not sure it's going to match. But I'd be circling those wagons if I was a team in the middle or a team at the bottom of the standings and felt like you could get a good player for this year, next year, or whatever. The Rangers are just looking to shake things up. I'd be shocked if they weren't getting calls from a lot of different GMs
Something's
trying to
not
pluck
right
players.
there. Something's not right. And I like the fact that it's just not we're going to fire the coach and change it. You know what I mean? Like maybe that'll happen. I don't know. But right now it seems like they're trying to sort it out and figure. But it just
But
body
when
language
it's
on the
something
guys.
like that, it seems like a problem, and it's more than just a defensive zone problem. It seems like there's. I don't know. There's a rat in there somewhere. Somehow,
Exactly.
somebody hates somebody, and it's not good.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, you're also dealing with an owner that, in James Dolan, that could do anything at any time.
That's
No
true.
kidding.
Dolan could just step in and say, "I don't like the press. Someone's going." That would not be shocking at all.
Yeah.
Final hour coming up. Confirm or deny. Jake Delhomme, best bets as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.